At DeVry University's College of Business, we're looking for the go-getters. So if you want to learn what's been business world tested today and make an impact tomorrow, you're our kind of different.
From Del Rio, Texas, home of Lake Amistad, your host, Rob Wade. This guy who dives. This episode of This Guy Who Dives, recorded live 13 February 2016, episode 155, Accessorizing. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of This Guy Who Dives, and I'm your host, Rob Wade, and I am joined in a moment by my co-host, Ronan, who insisted at the last second that he absolutely had to be in the shot. So if I can switch the camera here. Wow. Having brightness control issues here. Yeah, this is always fun at the last second. Brightness control gets out of whack. There we go. Don't need to blind you all. So, say hi to everybody, Ronan. Yeah, there he is. All right, so this has been one of those interesting days, running a little bit late getting started here, so I apologize for those who were sitting patiently in our chat room trying to connect with the show. As a matter of fact, I see somebody is out there. That might be my buddy John. He was going on a dive with another friend of ours who came back in the area, Philip. They were beckoning me to go join them in a dive earlier this week, and unfortunately, I have a day job, so I couldn't just pull out and go on a dive. Normally, I'm free on the weekends to do that, and if somebody's up for a night dive, I'm also in some cases open for that. But wasn't able to join him. But I said, by all means, share with us what their experience was, what the visibility was like, what the temps were like. Although they're probably in the low to mid 50s right now. So I haven't heard back from them yet, but hoping to soon. I think I remember that Philip did have a camera, but I don't know. He didn't mention if they were going to be bringing it along on their trip. So as soon as I hear from them, because I haven't been able to dive since last time I shared with you all some pictures and video, I haven't been able to get out there. I was kind of hoping to get to do that today, It was certainly warm enough, but unfortunately the winds picked up pretty good in midday and the afternoon. So I knew that was going to pretty much tank the visibility out here at Lake Amistad. So no diving for me today, unfortunately. I would have loved to have gotten out there had the weather been a little bit more conducive to diving. So the episode for tonight is Accessorize, and so what I'm going to talk to you guys about, and this will hopefully help our good friend Bobby Love, who might be watching tonight. I was hoping that she might actually be here tonight, but probably overcome by events. But anyway, I'll be sharing with you some suggestions. There are tons of accessories that you can purchase out there for your diving pleasure. And we're going to just bring to you just some suggestions, some things you might consider adding to your equipment, not as primary gear, but as backup gear or just accessories. So hopefully you'll find some of that helpful to you guys. And certainly I don't sell any of this stuff. Some of these items that I will be talking about, I do actually have and use. And so based on personal experience, I'll be giving you my opinion of those. Others I've just seen and read a lot about and just find them interesting, intriguing, or otherwise potentially helpful as a diver. So I'll be sharing that with you. So let's start off real quick with our normal fare. I have no movie reviews for you today. Still haven't got to see anything. I did have Deadpool on my list, but my wife and producer isn't really as interested in seeing that, so I may see if some of my other friends are up for going to see that. And this being a three-day weekend, it's President's Day. This weekend, and coincidentally it's also Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's to all you lovely folks loving each other out there. So, and husbands or boyfriends, if you have not taken care of your significant other, you better make sure you do it. I noticed at Walmart when I was shopping for just some stuff we needed around the house, it was there were people just buying up flowers and candy and all sorts of Valentine's Day centric gifts, but Walmart was already in the throes of clearing out their Valentine's Day stuff. They did have some they have what's the word I'm looking for? Not seasonal, but thematic rows of items that they sell specifically for the various holidays and other special events. Some of them might be even local, that they have close to the front that they will share, or that they will that they make available for folks to purchase. And there's the other screen. Why I make adjustments to one screen and the others go out of whack. It's like, oh, I will foil you at every turn that I can here. Bring this one down if I can actually grab it. There we go. That's less intense. I may be intense, but I don't need the camera to be intense. You know what I mean? So, as I was saying, they've got these rows that they put, it's Halloween, they put stuff up there. If it's Thanksgiving, they put stuff up there. If it's 4th of July, they put stuff up there. Well, of course, they had like their 3 or 4 rows of all the various Valentine's stuff. They had the bears, Valentine's stuffed animals and cutesy shirts and little somewhat cuddly stuff for girls and candy and all this stuff. Well, I mean, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and people were actively buying stuff, but they had already started clearing the shelves out. So let's see, I guess St. Patty's Day would be the next thing coming up. So they're probably lining up for, I'll bet that's what's going to go in there next. So, anyway, that was kind of craziness going on out there. But anyway, I might be back to the movie thing. I'll probably work out sometime this 3-day weekend to go see Deadpool and give you an opinion on that. And then next weekend, I'm looking forward to giving you my review of Risen, which is going to be, I think it's going to be a spectacular movie. the trailer looks good. Clips that I've seen look great. It's getting early, from those who get to see, the pre-release of the movie. They're saying it's the best movie of this type since the Passion of the Christ. So I'm looking forward to that as being, it's the story of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection from the point of view of one of the Roman soldiers, which is pretty cool. I love it when you can tell the story from a different aspect. So looking forward to that, and I'll be able to give you a review of that as well. So on to the tech arena. Not a lot going on in that space right now. We did have another mini build, if you will, for the Windows Phone come out. Windows Mobile 10586.107. Again, it's not a major upgrade, and it's basically, again, stuff behind the scenes. They're trying to keep things up in as far as versions, etc., with the desktop/tablet OS. So, and I will tell you, though, there was no new features, and supposedly it was bug fixes, but I will tell you the battery life on the 950, the Lumia 950, is worse with this release. I'm getting, on normal use, I was getting about 6 to 7 hours on a full charge. Now I'm getting 5 to 6 hours, so it has negatively impacted battery life. And we still, because of this AT&T phone, we still haven't seen either of the two firmware updates that have been already released for these things. And I'm hoping that one of those actually would help the battery life and the camera on this thing, because both are deplorable as far as I'm concerned. So I will tell you now, if you are in the market for a Windows Phone, don't waste your money on the 950. It's just not worth the high cost of it right now. Although I've been seeing across the world that the prices have been starting to drop pretty noticeably on them, but I wouldn't even pay $300 now. Knowing what I know about this now, I wouldn't even pay $300 for this phone, which is sad because I still love my 1020. That thing is just an awesome device. But so much was not done right with this device. It's just a shame. And then the fact that it's Windows 10 makes it even worse. So, just a few rumors floating out there with Apple. They've been actually taking some hits in the stock arena. Of course, taking a hit when your stocks are still exceptionally high doesn't mean a lot, but it does signal to investors there's a potential issue. Apple's even concerned a little bit about iPad sales, and so rumors about what they might do with the next iPhone, which is going to be like a 5 SE or something like this, or 6 SE, some interesting version. There's not a lot more they can do with it because there's not really any significant new tech coming out there, so it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do with that. In other news, I was very, very sad to hear that the one of my favorite Supreme Court justices, Antonin Scalia, passed away today at the age of 79. Switch the screen region where you can see a picture of him. So there is the man. He is a intellectual and constitutional giant. I mean, the guy, I always loved hearing him speak on the Constitution. He was the first Italian American on the Supreme Court, so he's got that distinction. And he was a stalwart. I gotta say, he was a stalwart conservative, but he was a constitutional conservative. So he read the Constitution from the perspective. He applied it from the perspective of a constructionist. In other words, somebody who really was well in tune with what the founding fathers intended, because he not only was, deeply ensconced into how the wording used, because words mean things, of the Constitution, but also, well up on the Federalist Papers, well up on the various writings of the Founding Fathers who wrote the Constitution. So if you are not sure how to understand certain things when you're reading the Constitution, it's always helpful to find other writings by the authors to see what their mindset was. What was the language that they used in other writings, especially when they were commenting on, and there were plenty of writings by the authors leading up to the creation of the Constitution in its various versions before they got to the one that was officially signed and ratified by all the colonies, then come states. So he understood quite clearly what was intended, and understood that it was not meant to be a living, breathing document from the perspective that a lot of liberals use it, where you need to interpret within today's framework. No, I'm of the type who believe that our Constitution was divinely inspired. It was inspired. It was inspirational in the aspect where that a lot of our founding fathers were faith-based folks. They were religious folks. They were Christians, and they applied deep thought and prayer and angst into the writing, the intentional crafting of our Constitution. And so that there are aspects of it that they are recognized, I think, from an eternal aspect. When you have a mindset of a people in that day and age where they feel that people are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that drives a perspective, a worldview that was unique, and I would maintain that these days is still unique. And it's important that we realize that perspective, realize where they were coming from, and that their intent was very specific in the way they worded the Constitution. And it's only been through what I would argue are inappropriate interpretations by later generations, later Supreme Courts that go counter to what was intended. And now I have Ronan, who is asking. I'm not sure what he's asking for, but he's whining about something. So I think that people like Justice Scalia had the right approach to dealing with things that came before the Supreme Court, where the constitutionality of something that was going on happened. I am not pleased with Chief Justice Roberts. I'm not pleased with the recent selections, that our President Obama put on there. They decidedly are not following the Constitution, in my opinion. But I leave that for historians to battle with over if there's a country left after this election. So, sad to see that Justice Antonin Scalia has passed away at age 79. Let me see where is that dog? Ronan, come over here. Ronan, join me. Come here. All right. So while I switch screens back. All right. Just a reminder for those who might be so interested, we do have, again, the second annual Women's Dive Day is July 16th. And so you can check online. You can look. There'll be a number of events worldwide and certainly nationwide celebrating this. So if you are the female persuasion and a diver or wanting to get into diving, there's going to be a day especially celebrating you guys and your increased involvement and influence on the dive industry. Women bring a different perspective, just like they do to everything else, but women bring a different perspective and drive a different avenue or an additional enhancement, I guess, to the dive arena. You see a lot of gear lines that are specifically designed for women, both in style as well as physical capability, because women are shaped different, and they tend to behave a little bit differently. I would say they behave more safe, and obviously, and also clearly they go through air a lot less quick as guys. So there's a number of things that are that the dive industry is now focusing on to take advantage of a growing female population in the dive arena, but also take advantage of opinions on dive gear, what works, what doesn't, what's comfortable, what's not, what looks good, what doesn't, to what used to be a male-dominated activity or hobby or sport. I don't like to call it a sport because there's nothing competitive about scuba diving. But so, as a male diver who happens to be interested in style, I like the more colorful gear that's coming out. I just wish more of it actually was for guys, because now what you find is a lot of the women's gear is much more colorful than the guys, although some of it is creeping into the guys arena. But I'll be straight up, I love the color purple. I would love to have all of my gear purple. So and every once in a while I can get a piece of equipment that is purple, but you will find more likely that that's available in really cool colors for women, not as much for guys yet. But I'm hoping that influence will continue to grow and continue to expand into the guys' gear, or the non-gender specific gear. So, all right. So the title of the episode, of course, was I'm looking at the big screen, see what it's showing me here. The title, of course, is Accessorizing, and I just wanted to share with you some gear that I am equipment, accessories that I find interesting, helpful, either because I've experienced it or because I've just read up on it and I think it's pretty cool. So let's start right off. Let me switch to here we go. All right, so right off the bat, I found this kind of interesting because I always tell people you should have, I always tell divers, you need to always carry a light with you. Even on day dives, carrying just a small BC light is handy. Now, what's cool about this is the Moray Dive Corporation, the Moray Divers Communication Torch, or DCT. Now, what's pretty cool about this is a very small LED BC light, or what I call a BC light because it's small. It's 175 lumen, which is pretty cool, pretty bright, and it's LED, so you know you're going to get a lot of juice out of it. But this is the unique aspect about this is it's got a built-in noisemaker. So I carry, and my wife carries, a little shaker. I like the metal ones preferably, but the ones we have right now are they're plastic. But they have little weights in them, so when you shake them, you can hear that shaking, that noise carries very well underwater because, as you might recall from your training, if you're a trained scuba diver, sound travels much faster underwater than it does in air. And so having a shaker, you can hear that really well underwater unless you have some other noise that's overtaking it. And so rather than have two pieces of equipment, this allows you to kind of streamline it into a single piece. So for $69, you get a 175 lumen torch that's heavy duty, can withstand, of course, obviously recreational depths, and also take a beating and keep on ticking, as they say. But also has a shaker, a built-in shaker to it, so noisemaker. So Again, $69, you get a good light and you get a shaker built in. So I think that's pretty cool. So if you want to streamline your gear a bit and take my suggestion that you have a spare light that you carry with you all the time, this would not be a bad investment. All right, next we've got, this is pretty cool, the Ideations Dive Alert Plus. Now, this is pretty cool because, as you can see, it connects in line to your power inflator. So you see the top there, the power inflator hose coming down, where it would normally connect straight into the button for your power inflator, which obviously it does not, because it's in line, it does not interrupt it. But what it does do is it allows you to produce a very loud air horn sound when you're on the surface, and then underwater it produces a very loud buzz underwater. So it's another method of communication of getting somebody's attention. Now, obviously, if I hear this loud buzzing underwater, that's going to draw my attention, probably more so than a shaker would. So for $79, you can get this little ditty, this little piece of accessorizing added to your gear. Pretty cool. I have heard those. I don't have one, but I know some divers who have had them, and they really like them. Okay, so that's $79. That's $79 for the Ideations Dive Alert Plus. Now, next up, if I can get this to work here, there we go. I think this is pretty cool. I've always felt that these were a pretty nice, relatively inexpensive addition to your gear. This is the Oceanic Bud, or backup dive computer. As you can see, it's got a little, well, it's kind of, if you can recognize that, that's a little clip that you can clip to your D-ring or other appropriate, if you might have a retractor that you can connect it to, but typically you would be able to clip this to a D-ring. And it's just a very basic dive computer that you can use as your backup. I love Oceanic's computers. That's almost exclusively what I use for the dive training. And I've got dogs getting angry over here. Get over here. And so you can see it's easy to read. And what's cool is you can get this in blue, yellow, red, or orange. So you can get one that matches the style of your gear. So my dog back up on the chair here. All right, next up, and that will run you $199 for a colorful, sturdy Oceanic backup dive computer, the Oceanic Bud, for $199. So basically $200, about the cost of any other low-end dive computer. Next up, we have, if you're looking for a low profile but very good Octo or alternate air source to add to your gear or replace the one that you currently have, this is one that I like. I have had a version of this until it finally gave up the ghost. I mean, that thing had been through a lot, and finally the actual Octo continued to work, but the weather had taken its toll on the purge cover there. But the Genesis Octo is a nice, relatively inexpensive. It's not the absolute cheapest Octo that you can get out there, but I think it's the least expensive one that gives you such a low profile. If you're trying to streamline your gear every little bit that you can, this is an excellent one to get. So the Genesis Octo it's a no frills alternate regulator Octo. For those who are on a budget, $73. I mean, you can't really beat that if you want something that's small like this. So $73, you can get a quality Octo. It breathes well. Now, obviously, at $73, it's not going to breathe like your high-end, $800 primary regulator. but I never had any issues breathing off of this, and I never had any issues with somebody breathing off of it who was practicing the shared air use. So $73, pretty good investments. Check the chat room here. Nobody asking any questions yet. All right, moving along. Spare air. I've talked about this before. I've got it. I use it. I love it. I've gotten into a number of debates with folks over the spare air devices. This is by Submersible Systems. They make like 3 different sizes. This is the largest one that they currently make, the Spare Air 300, and it's a 3 cubic foot tank. Now, to put that in perspective, your most typical common sized scuba tank is 80 cubic feet. Okay, so this one is 3 cubic feet. Now you still fill it to up. It's still pressurized or filled up to 3,000 psi, but it's 3 cubic feet of air pressurized at 3,000 psi. Now, the beauty of this is that it is all contained. So as you can see, the very top of that, it's got its own built-in regulator. Now, it is not the easiest breathing regulator, but it's not designed to do that. It's designed as a bailout bottle. And as you can see, it comes with its own yoke type fill mechanism there on the lower right. You just attach the bottom end there, just screws into a port that's on the regulator at the top of the spare air, and then that yoke, just like with your regular air fill, just you put that over the top of a larger tank. So you literally can fill this right from your main tank. So you basically are siphoning off 3 cubic feet from your tank into this small tank. So it's easy to fill just pretty much anywhere that you're going to dive. And it's got its own little sleeve that you can strap on a number of different ways. Some people put it as a side to kind of like a pony bottle. Some people will strap it across the cummerbund. I strap mine actually along the right side bottom via D-rings and carabiners, and it just makes a convenient way. And you also have what's cool, you can see hanging off of that, you can see a lanyard. So that lanyard has a little clip on the end, and you see it straps around the neck of the spare air. So you would put that clip, and it's coiled. So you put that clip on, say, another D-ring. So that way, when you take the spare air out of its holster, if you accidentally drop it, it's connected. It's still lanyard to your BC via that coiled strap, so it comes in handy, and it gives you plenty of distance too. So what this could easily be used as is to hand off to your buddy in an emergency instead of your alternate. For me, what I use it for is I love having that I love having the knowledge, the comfort of knowing that I have a completely separate, self-contained breathing apparatus if something catastrophic happens to my gear. So, and I've practiced with it, and I recommend if you get this, and it will cost you $299. No. $260. $260 self-contained. I practice with it. I actually do. I'll go to depth. I'll go to 100 feet, and then I will simulate that I've had catastrophic failure with my system, and I'll whip this puppy out, and I can surface from 100 feet. Now obviously, if you're going to be breathing fast and screaming to the surface, you've got a lot more problems that you've got to learn to control than what this probably can help you with. But what it will help you do, if you practice with it and keep your wits about you, you can comfortably get to the surface with a catastrophic failure of your primary gear on one of these. I've easily made it to the surface with this. Now, typically, you're not going to pull your 3-minute stop at 15 feet because there's just not enough air to do that. But the idea with this is to get you to the surface as safely as possible, where you're not completely running out of air and then just screaming to the surface and potentially experiencing DCS. So as a recreational diver and as a recreational tool, because of the depths that I stress recreational, because of the depths that you're going, it's no decompression diving. This is what I think it's well worth the investment. My wife and I both have one of these, and well worth it. So for $260, the Submersible Systems Spare Air 300. All right, now speaking of dive lights, I have a blue one of these. The Princeton Tec Torrent LED light. I love this light. It's because it's LED, it lasts a long time on batteries, AA batteries, and it is bright. I mean, it's 280 lumen, and it is perfect for even a day dive where you need to see into crevices of things or just light something up a little bit better. If you're diving out at Lake Amistad and you go below 40 feet, it starts to get dark because the visibility isn't all as good as typical ocean diving. So you need something to light it up, especially if I'm out here at Scuba Cove at Lake Amistad diving, and I go to the big boat, which is in 50 to 70 feet of water. It gets dark. If you've seen the video that I've shown before, matter of fact, I probably don't have that on here anymore. Let me check the preview editor. Nope, I don't. But visibility isn't the greatest at that depth, so as far as light. And so having this handy in your BC allows you to light up the quasi-twilight of a deeper day dive. And, of course, it makes a perfect backup light for your primary, which is going to be typically either a wrist mounted or hand-mounted or a pistol grip type. So I recommend this. 280 lumens. Comes in black, blue, or yellow. I've got the blue one. Love it. $60. What a deal for a bright LED light. Solid performer. Feels, it's not too heavy, but it feels solid in the hand. You don't feel like it's going to come apart on you. Excellent quality. The Princeton Tec Torrent LED light. 280 lumens. Comes in black, blue, or yellow. And you can get it for about $60. All right. Next we have, this is pretty cool too. Personally, I prefer my console coming off of my regulator. I prefer my console to have everything on it. I have the pressure gauge, I have the dive computer, and I have the compass all on one. That's how I prefer to streamline things. If you happen to have purchased a console that only has the dive computer and pressure gauge on it, you may not want, or your console may not be designed to add a compass to it. And so I always recommend that you have a compass. Santo, as you can see, it's on the dial here. Santo makes the SK8. It's an upgrade from the SK7 wrist compass, but they also make, and this is $105 for the wrist compass, and they also make, which is pretty cool, for the same price, a retractable version. So you can see it's the same compass, but they put it in a modified console with retractor. So you just attach this to a D-ring, and so keeps it to streamlined to your body, and you just pull it out, get your bearings, and then let go of it, and it pulls it back to your gear. So this could make a very good backup, especially if you get the retractable. But either the wrist version or the retractable version. It's a worthwhile purchase. Now, can you get cheaper compasses? Yeah, you can get the basic puck style compass that you typically can put in a console for about $50. So this costs $105, so it's twice the cost of a typical puck type that you would insert to an existing console. But you're paying for either the wrist mounting or you're paying for the retractable. Personally, I really like the retractable as a spare. That's pretty cool. Sorry about that. That's a pretty cool version, in my opinion. So $105 from Aqualung Santo. They own the Santo line. All right, now this next item I think is way cool. And if I did more ocean diving than I do, I would invest in this myself. This is pretty cool. This is the Nautilus Lifeline satellite-based electronic rescue signal. So it is a radio, and it can handle, I want to say, over 200 feet in depth, maybe deeper. Think about whatever it was, like 235 or something like that. Of course, recreational diving, 130, 140 in emergency is the max you should be diving. But it's got VHF radio and GPS. So this is pretty cool. The green button activates a non-emergency contact. So basically you're able to contact people just in a non-emergency mode. The orange button sends a verbal distress over channel 16 directly to the Coast Guard. And then the red button transmits a digital Mayday and GPS coordinates to the Coast Guard and any boats that are in the area who happen to be equipped with the digital selective calling radio. And this thing, the Lifeline, the Nautilus Lifeline, costs $299. So if you do a lot of open water diving, or I would argue this would be handy just if you do a lot of boating, where you might lose your. Sounds like some excitement's going on out in the living room. Where you might, let's say your boat goes down or your radio gets damaged. This is a great backup device. $300 gets you a fantastic backup device that can communicate to the Coast Guard and provides GPS coordinates so they can find you quickly. So this is I think this is a worthwhile device. And like I said, if we did more ocean diving than we do, I would absolutely invest in this. So that is the Nautilus Lifeline satellite-based electronic rescue signal for $299. What a deal. All right, moving on to the next one. All right, now, of course, you always should carry some sort of a dive knife with you because you never know when you might get tangled up in something that you need to cut yourself loose from. Some folks don't like the idea of carrying a straight blade, a stiff blade, either the old sea hunt style where it's the really big knife that's strapped to your calf, or like what my wife and I carry, which is one that's much smaller, and is attached to our BC for easy access. Some people don't like to have a knife that's just always sticking out, even though it's in a sheath and you pull it out, but then it's exposed. This is the Marius Force Bat folding knife. So it's like a folding knife, but as you can see, it's got the nice little strap and clip to connect to your BC, so you can easily remove it. But it folds up, so you don't have to worry about sticking yourself until you open it up. And this will run you. It's a 3.5 inch titanium blade, and it will run you $75. So it's not off the mark as far as good quality dive knives are. You can get them cheaper, clearly, but for good quality knife, name brand Marius, and a folding type, $75. Now, obviously, you could use this not just for diving. I mean, the way this is, you could just carry this around with you, and then when you're ready to go, you just clip it onto your BC, and you're ready to go. So just don't forget it, though. I mean, if you're going to use it in another outside of the dive arena, I keep all of my gear attached to my gear. So, but for something like this, obviously, since you could use it elsewhere, you definitely don't want to forget it when you're getting ready to get in the water. Because that's not one of the items when you go through the pre-dive safety check. This is not one of the items you go through your check on. So, Marius Force Bat Folding Knife, 3.5-inch titanium blade, folding blade, $75. All right. And moving along. This is pretty cool. In classes now, you're required to learn how a signal tube, or we call signal sausage sometimes, how it works. Divers Alert Network, Dan, a organization that I just can't say enough good things about, they have this signal tube, but what's pretty cool about it is also got, as you can see, highly reflective strips on it. So even at night, it's easier to see because you can, when a light hits it, or your light, if you've got a dive light, you can reflect off of that too. So that's pretty cool. It's a 6-foot tube with reflective strips, but it also has internal radar reflector packs. So if you look in the very bottom, the little mesh area, these are radar reflector packs. So if you've got Coast Guard looking for you, you can use these packs to actually reflect their radar. So it basically expands your visibility, because they can see you from aircraft and other rescue vessels who are using radar for searching. So this is pretty cool. This will cost you $75. So this is definitely much more expensive than your typical signal sausage, which will cost you around $25, depending on the size, because they come in different sizes. But this is a 6-foot one, which is about normal size. You can get larger signal tubes, but this one from Dan with the reflective strips and the radar reflective packs will run you $75. So, and that's from Divers Alert Network, or Dan as we know them. Also, as a bit of safety gear, it's always important to have a whistle, or it's required for when you go through the training. Not all whistles are made equal. This is the innovative Scuba storm whistle. It's bright yellow, although I have seen some other ones that are different colors. And this thing can be heard up to a half mile away. So this is a well-engineered but very inexpensive whistle. Typical cost, it's obviously if it's something that's going to survive being underwater a lot, needs to work pretty quickly and easily once you are bobbing on the surface. And this will run you about $10. So $10 piece of equipment to increase your safety while you're out diving. So $10 by Innovative Scuba. All right, now another Oceanic device. This is fairly new. I hadn't seen this before. Again, in the signal tube arena, this is pretty cool. Oceanic has this signal tube. It is also 6 foot. It's also a 6-foot tube, and one side is yellow, bright neon yellow, and the other side is, you can see, bright orange. Now, what's interesting about this is, while you can use it as a normal inflatable signal tube, you can, if you look carefully on the yellow side, there's a part of half of a zipper, and if you look very closely on the orange side that's rolled up, the other part of that zipper, you can actually zip these together and it becomes basically a flotation tube. So you can then slip this over your head, and this will be a heads up flotation device for you. So if you're signaling, you can extend it to the full 6 feet, or you can zip it together to where you can wear it as a flotation device. So it is a multifunction safety device. The Oceanic Personal Safety Device, 6-foot signal tube that zips together to become a flotation ring, is $44. And again, this is more expensive than a typical signal tube would cost you, but because of its unique features, again, this would be a worthwhile investment if you're a serious diver. Now, going back to Divers Alert Network, again, they're all about safety and understanding how you can help people in distress, and also they do a lot of studies on dive physiology. They have this pretty extensive Coast Guard complete first aid kit. It's $120, so it's got a ton of stuff with it. This is a very, very well thought out and very thorough first aid kit. Now, while, like I said, this will cost you $120, and you can see it's got splints, it's got all sorts of stuff with it. It's got the resuscitation mask, so if you find yourself having to do CPR, which right now it's all about the compressions, but if you need to do rescue breaths, you know, this, and I have actually a number of these resuscitation masks. This will help you avoid any infections, contaminants, etc. that normal mouth-to-mouth resuscitation might introduce. So anyway, now if you don't get something like this, I cannot suggest strongly enough that you put together your own first aid kit. The more extensive, the better. You can go to Walmart and build your own. I would suggest making sure it's something that has a decent sized case that's easy to see, easy to access, easy to store, but has plenty of room to store all the things that you want to put in it. You can go to Divers Alert Network and see more details of these various kits, and you can also go online and you can actually find a wealth of information on suggested contents of a well thought out, well laid out first aid kit for diving. But if you don't want to have to think about that, the Divers Alert Network, the Dan Coast Guard Complete First Aid Kit, definitely takes the worry out of knowing what to put in it. So $120, or I suggest you build your own kit if you don't want to get one of these. You can go to Walmart or CVS or any of those places, Walgreens. Winding down here, I love these. A number of different companies make these. They're all pretty much made the same. You can get some that are more expensive. You can even get some that are a little bit less expensive, but not much less expensive. These are the Blue Reef dive shears. These actually, they're shears, but this is a tool that's often used by paramedics because these things can cut through seat belts. So when they're trying to get somebody out of a car and the seat belt can't be released, they can cut them out with these. That's how strong these are. These are definitely a handy thing to have when your dive knife just can't cut it, pun intended. So I actually carry both. I carry a dive knife and I carry a set of these shears. I just like knowing that I can cut through anything with just two devices. And I rarely worry about finding a situation where I can't cut myself out of an entanglement. Or even if it was my own gear, for some reason my quick releases didn't work, which if I'm doing my pre-dive safety check properly, I'm making sure those function properly before I dive anyway. But again, preparation for any event is important when you're scuba diving. So this was this is a $10 investment that is well worth it. So Blue Reef shears with holster to cut through just about anything that your dive knife can't. $10, well worth it. Last item up for bids we have tonight is I have this kit. I love this kit. It's not a high-end cost. This is a $30 diver's toolkit by Aqua. You can find a number of variations out there. Now, one variation I've seen on this by another company, instead of having the two crescent wrenches or pardon me, open and adjustable wrenches, they have dual-headed box wrenches, or open-ended box wrenches that have specific sizes to them. Now, the downside of that is you are stuck to the 4 heads on those 2 wrenches. So if something that you have does not fit one of those 4 heads, you're kind of stuck. Whereas with the open-end adjustables, you can fit it to just about anything, not just the typical standard sizes of heads that you might see in your dive gear, but other things as well. Because quite frankly, I've found myself needing to work on things other than my scuba gear, but it's all part of my dive trailer. And so having a couple of the open-end adjustables are pretty handy. As you can see, you have your typical, your common sizes for your Allen wrenches that you'll typically use with your regulators and that kind of thing. Or even some BCs have things that are attached via Allen wrench. And you have a small flathead and Phillips head screwdriver. You also have in the center there, you have a little punch, or it's a scrawl, allows you to carefully grab and pull out, let's say, an O-ring, so you can replace it. So if you have one that's failed, you can dig it out carefully with this and put the replacement in there. And then you can see you've got a handle for a screwdriver per se. It also has, if you look on the left, little attachments for little sockets as well. So you can either have various sizes of what's the word? Not Allen wrench, 8-point wrench. Yeah, 8-point screwdriver, as well as a couple of sockets there. And then, of course, you have your typical needle nose pliers. So this is kind of all the kit that you really need for your typical dive situation. This makes a good addition to your regular Save a Dive kit, which I thought about including that in here, but I've talked about the Save a Dive kit before. And you can kind of create your own Save a Dive kit. You should have a mask strap, a spare mask strap, a spare or 2 of the fin straps, various O-rings, certainly the O-rings for your regulator for the tank, as well as some silicone grease and spare mouthpiece in case yours tears apart, some zip ties, because that's how you hold your mouthpiece onto your regulator. But this toolkit is a perfect match for your basic Save a Dive kit, so well worth it. This is a $30 kit. You can find just about any dive store online or whatever. But this one in particular is by Aqua. And again, I prefer this one because of the open-end adjustable wrenches on there. Okay, it's come in very handy a number of times. So, all right, we're winding down here. Let me hit a little bit of administrivia. Let me check the chat room. Nobody's asking any questions. So, let's see, administrivia. Next Dive Club meeting, 18 February at 7 p.m. out at Rudy's Restaurant. So hopefully we'll see you there. We can talk about diving in the local area. And I do have my dive classes lined up, basic open water classes lined up for this year, May 26th to the 29th, June 23rd through the 26th, the July 28th through the 31st, August 25th through the 28th, September 22nd through the 25th. Sign up no later than the first week of the month of that class. So if you're going to the May class, you want to sign up no later than the first week of May. So I can get your dive material, your student materials to you, give you enough time to do the self-study and complete the workbook prior to us actually coming together for that actual practical training weekend and do the quizzes and final exam and then the actual practical application. You can sign up earlier than that, and that will give you a lot more time to complete the self-study portion, but no later than the first week of the month of the class. So, and of course I'll do other classes, advanced, rescue, etc. If there's sufficient demand for it. So just contact us and let us know, and we'll get you set up there. As always, I always like to plug A Pet's Wish. They are in desperate need of your donations because they have exorbitant vet bills from taking care of the animals that people just don't take care of, unfortunately, and to cover the food and cleaning supplies and everything that they use every day in large amounts to take care of these animals. So you can check them out. Matter of fact, let me pull up their page on the website or their Facebook. Let me pull up their Facebook page. Pets. There we go. Here we go. Oh, and that's still pinned from July. All right, let me switch the screen reader so you can see this. So this is their Facebook page, A Pet's Wish. And matter of fact, I think they had an adoption event today. Yeah. Out at the mall. So you can see some of the animals that they have for adoption. All these puppies. Yeah, they ended up rescuing a dog that was pregnant, and just a few days later gave birth to 9 little puppies. So you can see they're in desperate need of. They've got so many animals that need to be adopted out and need regular care on a regular basis. So you can check them out. Just look for A Pet's Wish, and you're looking for this icon. As a matter of fact, let me type it in here so you can see it actually looking for. So you'll see this one. That will get to them too. But this is actually their more current one that they're using. So click on that. That takes you to this page. So I definitely encourage you to please donate. They really need your help. If you're available to help them as far as time to take care of the animals, they could use that too. But if they had sufficient funds, they could actually pay people to work there on a regular basis. As it is, Katrina does it all herself, basically. So, yeah, that's A Pet's Wish. So, and then if you'd like to keep in touch with us, keep up on what's going on in the Del Rio area, as far as diving is concerned, just visit our website, delriodiveclub.com. And so if you go there, calling it up, maybe. Wow, that was slow. If you go there, then you will find a page that looks something like this. So keep things, we'll tell you fill you in on any trips that we went on, keep you up on conditions at Lake Amistad, dive club meetings, and all that fun stuff. And as well as you will find scuba classes. So you can click on that to get all the skinny on our dive classes. So, and then also if you'd like to follow our Facebook page, as I mentioned, there's our Facebook. Just look for Del Rio Dive Club on Facebook, and that will take you to here we go. That will take you here, and that's what our page looks like. So you'll see stuff that's going on. We post our episodes up there if you want to keep in touch with that. You can see pictures from various dives, etc., and comments from folks. So follow us there. And then, of course, if you want to send us messages as part of the show, just look for, we use Skype messaging as well as video. Just go look for TGWD, stands for This Guy Who Dives, and we can contact you that way. Or if you so choose, you can, of course, follow me. Just send me an email at robert.wade@cetifox.net, or you can follow me on the Twitter. I'm very prolific, but I will warn you, that's my own personal Twitter account, not the dive club or diving Twitter account. So I'm very prolific, typically on political matters. So if you're so inclined to follow me there, you can do that. Just look for Robert CFP, and I'll probably follow you back unless I have a reason not to. So you can check me out that way. So that covers everything that we had going on for this week. Hope you all have a fantastic Valentine's Day tomorrow. If you're so inclined, recommend you visit your local church too, given it is Sunday. And of course, for those of you who are federal workers and are off Monday, have a safe and awesome President's Day. Enjoy the day, but be safe. You're doing the cookout thing and all that fun stuff. Safety first, as with everything, just like with diving, safety first. You know, with your other recreational stuff, safety first, so you can continue to enjoy it, and your family can continue to enjoy you. So that covers us everything that we had for this evening, and hope you enjoyed the show. And we will see you next time, God willing, on another exciting episode of This Guy Who Dives. See ya.